1 second. Hello, good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining from today. Dear participants, I am delighted to welcome you to the webinar today on the support ecosystem for the next round of nationally determined contributions for the Caribbean region. The webinar today is organized by the UNFCCC Regional Collaboration Center for the Caribbean, based in St. George's, Grenada, along with the NDC Partnership. My name is Jason Williams, and I am the Regional Specialist on NDCs and LT-LEDs at the RCC for the Caribbean, and I'll be your moderator for today. The objectives of this webinar is to provide a platform for countries to hear from a number of development and implementation partners on the avenues of support available for the development of the 2025 NDCs, such as data and analysis, policy and planning, finance and investment, capacity building, and stakeholder engagement, and to connect with them to access support as and when required. So before we get started, next screen, please, Stafa. I'd like to mention a couple of housekeeping rules. So please mute your microphones and turn off your camera unless speaking. During the question and answer session later on in the panel, please raise your virtual hand if you'd like to take the floor. Or in the meantime, in case there are any questions, please write the questions in the chat and they will be picked up by the speakers and the panelists during the Q&A. We encourage your full engagement today. The session will be recorded and shared on the UNFCCC websites and be shared with the invitees who could not participate today. Next slide, please. So on the screen, we have the agenda. I just want to briefly go over it. So during this introduction session, I'll be handing over to the regional lead for the RCC Caribbean shortly, Maida Santaya. We then move on to the welcome and opening. We have a video message from the Executive Secretary of the UN Climate Change, Simon Steele. And then I'll pass over to Stelios Pesmajoglou, Manager at the UN Climate Change. After that, I'll be giving a brief presentation on the most recent CMA decisions and GST outcomes. And then we go into our country experiences. Today, we have a representative from the government of St. Lucia, who will be presenting on the experiences and key lessons learned during their NDC preparation and implementation, and sharing that information with us today. We then move on to the session on support available for NDCs. As you can see on the screen, we have a very packed panel today. So in addition to our NDC Partnership, who's collaborating with us to organize this workshop, we have 9 other agencies that will be presenting on the work that they're doing and supporting the support that they're providing to countries in preparing the next round of NDCs. So we have the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, we have the UNDP, we have Climate Analytics, ICAT Secretariat, CCMRV Hub, CBIT GSP, GGGI, Jeff, and finally GIZ. After this session, after the presentations, we'll have a question and answer period where the participants, you'll be able to engage with the presenters and ask questions. We then move on to our closing remarks that will be delivered by the RCC Caribbean. Next slide, please. Okay, so now I'd like to hand over to our regional lead for the RCC Caribbean, Maida Santaya, for some brief introductions. The floor is yours, Maida.
Thank you, Jason. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Maida Santaya. I'm the regional lead at the UNFCCC Regional Collaboration Center for the Caribbean, RCC Caribbean, located in the beautiful island of Grenada. So I'm very pleased to be giving a brief introduction to this webinar. First, I would like to thank everyone online for logging in and attending this webinar today. I've checked and we have so far 40 people logged in, so that's great. As Jason stated earlier, the webinar is on the support ecosystem for the next round of nationally determined contributions, NDCs for the Caribbean region, organized by the RCC Caribbean along with the NDC Partnership. At the recently concluded COP28, the GST decision invited organizations in a position to do so, and the Secretariat, including through its regional collaboration centers, to provide capacity building support for the preparation and communication of the next NDCs. So today we are looking forward to hearing from the organizations providing support to countries and on countries' experience in NDC development and implementation, specifically on the lessons learned during the most recent NDC preparations. So we are excited to have a full panel of development partners who will be sharing on the support that they are individually providing for the 2025 NDCs. So without further ado, I would like to ask our colleagues to play the video message from the UNFCCC Executive Secretary, Mr. Simon Steele, who recorded a special message for this webinar today. Thank you, and looking forward to engaging with all of you today. And don't forget to smile and enjoy yourselves as well. Thank you.
I'm excited to speak to you today about putting together the third generation of nationally determined contributions, national climate targets and plans to implement them, or as many of my team are calling them, NDCs 3.0. I think these may be the most important documents to be produced in a multilateral context so far this century. They can be economic blueprints for each nation and help attract significant new investment in climate action and development. Building on the work done to date, including, wherever possible, even stronger 2030 targets. These new NDCs need to respond to our climate reality. The global stocktake showed both the significant progress we've made around the world and, unfortunately, how far we are off track. Without significant additional climate action, we'll blow through the target to limit global temperatures to 1.5 degrees. So these NDCs need to be more ambitious, covering more of each party's economy, and also more detailed, covering all greenhouse gases. For this to work, they need to be deeply embedded into national development plans. Different ministries, especially treasuries, need to input into them, understand them, and ultimately help determine them. This must be a process led by parties, although we are all here to help. And we don't have any time to waste. These new targets should be submitted 9 months before we meet in Berlin for COP30. I understand that I am asking a lot, and it wouldn't be fair to make an ask like this without an offer. The global support community is geared up and ready to support you in your efforts to prepare new NDCs, and the UNFCCC Secretariat stands with you as your partner. Throughout this year, the UNFCCC Secretariat, in partnership with sister UN agencies and over 50 other key players in the NDC support community, including development banks, bilateral agencies and think tanks, will prioritise efforts to support parties in preparing and communicating new NDCs by early 2025. We'll work with the resident coordinators to galvanise their political connections and promote action at country level. We'll engage parties to explain what is needed, how it can be achieved, and who can help. This event will provide you with crucial information on the support available to parties with a wide ecosystem of support partners. We look forward to working with you all. Together, we must turn the vision of Paris into reality. NDCs 3.0 are our last chance to course correct. I thank you for all your support.
I would like to now move to Stelios Pesmajoglou, the manager at the UNFCCC Secretariat, for his opening remarks. Stelios, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jason. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, thank you. Dear colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be here with you today at this very important event. My name is Stelios Pesmajoglou, and I am the manager of the subdivision of the UNFCCC Secretariat dealing with NDCs, LT-LEDs, and sectoral support. I will start by re-emphasizing the message from our Executive Secretary that 2025 is a critical year. It is the year that the nationally determined contributions mechanism of the Paris Agreement truly kicks into high gear. It is the year that countries countries have to submit new NDCs that are to be progressively more ambitious compared to the previous ones. 2025 is the year that the global community needs to enhance its efforts to bend the emissions curve and to increase resilience in all parts of our planet. For many of you, this will be the third time that you are producing these documents. The work on NDCs is extremely valuable, and the experience and expertise that has been accumulated in ministries and government agencies over the last more than 10 years is a solid foundation to build upon. NDCs are not only geared towards raising ambition, but they are also the vehicles to signal the priorities of different countries. In these efforts, we are guided by the temperature goals of the Paris Agreement, and we need to make sure that we keep the 1.5 degrees goal within reach. To achieve this, NDCs must be technically sound, country-owned and country-driven, linked with sustainable development, fit for purpose, and most importantly, implementable and financeable. Over time, both countries and support providers have been enhancing their capacities to make those important synergies more effective and more actionable. As mentioned by Mayra in her introduction, in the context of the work on the first global stocktake under the Paris Agreement, the CMA invited organizations in a position to do so, and the UNFC Secretariat, including through its regional collaboration centers, to provide capacity building support for the preparation and communication of the next round of nationally determined contributions. The UNFCCC regional collaboration centers are uniquely positioned to first facilitate this regional coordination for the next round of NDCs, working together with regional partners and organizations. Second, they can facilitate support to countries and provide matchmaking platforms and opportunities for both NDC preparation and implementation. And third, they can elevate the regional and national priorities to the global stage, which are crucial for the effective implementation of NDCs. In today's webinar, you will hear from countries on their experience and from support providers working on NDCs in your region. We encourage you to engage with the support community on both NDC implementation and preparation, to have robust commitments, investment plans, and roadmaps in 2025 to accelerate climate action and sustainable development. Today's webinar is one in a series of events that RCCs will be organizing in 2024 and 2025 to support the road to NDC 3.0 in different regions. More information on future events will be provided in due course by the Secretariat and other partners. In closing, I would like to reiterate the message by the Executive Secretary that the Secretariat, its RCCs, and the support community stand ready to listen to you and to support you in the preparation and communication of NDCs that are country-owned, they mobilize finance, and they promote ambition and resilience. Finally, I would like to thank all my colleagues at the RCC for the Caribbean, and in particular Mayra and Jason, and our colleagues from the NDC Partnership for their efforts in bringing us together today. I'm looking forward to the discussions during this webinar. Thank you very much, and back to you, Jason.
Thank you very much, Stelios, for the welcome remarks and for setting the scene in terms of what will be coming for capacity building for the next 2 years and what is coming in terms of the next NDCs 2025, and also the role of the UNFCCC and the RCCs in this process. It's important to note that the NDCs are not only geared towards raising ambitions, but also to signal the priorities of the countries. This is well noted. I would like to give a brief overview now of the latest CMA decisions and GSC outcomes that took place at COP28 in terms of NDCs, just to give some context to the webinar today. So the outcome of the global stocktake agreed upon at COP28 includes a collective process on mitigation, adaptation, means of implementation, including finance, technology transfer, capacity building, loss and damage, response measures, and eventually, in the end, the guidance on the way forward. Despite overall progress, parties are not yet collectively on track towards achieving the purpose of the Paris Agreement and its long-term goals. Hence, there are many actionable elements within the global stocktake decision across several themes. You can see some of them on the screen. As it relates to mitigation, given that we are not yet on track to meet the 1.5 temperature goal, there's a call for urgent, deep GHG emission reduction targets. There's also elements on energy, including renewable energy and increasing ambition and encouraging economy-wide NDCs. On adaptation, there's it's a big call for incremental, multi-sectoral and transformational actions, including universal early warning systems. There's also sectoral adaptation targets to reach global goal on adaptation. And there's also enhancing national adaptation plans and adaptation communications. In terms of means of implementation, there's a big call for enhanced mobilization of support to commit to the 100 billion goal. Also included is mention of the new collective quantified goal, and it was mentioned that potentially the NCQG could consider NDC implementation in its deliberations. There was establishment of the technology implementation program and enhanced capacity building support. There's a section, of course, on loss and damage, which I'm proud to say that our colleagues from the Caribbean contributed significantly to the final decision. So congratulations to the region for this huge accomplishment. Also, there's a section on just transition and enhancing international cooperation. As it relates to guidance and way forward, there are many dialogues which will be prepared this year and the next on GST, on finance, and specific areas, for example, mountains and children. There's also a call to revise the NDCs and the LT-LEDs, and an invitation to present those NDCs at the UNSG event later this year. Also, the GST decision did allude to the submission of BTRs due this year. Finally, to mainstream all these elements from the GST outcomes into the different bodies of the Secretariat and other mechanisms. Next slide, please. Now, more specifically on the NDC, the outcomes of the GST encourages parties to come with ambitious economy-wide emission reduction targets covering all GHGs and sectors and informed by the latest science. It also invites parties to put in place new or intensify existing domestic arrangements for preparing and implementing their successive NDCs. It also recalls the large number of decisions on the NDCs stemming from Paris and onwards, including new NDCs by 2025, the NDCs to be submitted 9 to 12 months in advance of COP30, and with the common timeframe decision from COP26, the new NDCs should have an end date of 2035, and these need to show a progression and reflect the highest ambition possible. The new NDCs are also due to have the ICTU information, that's information on the clarity, transparency, and understanding, which many countries, including those from our region, has already included in their previous submissions. Also, accounting approaches is also mandatory for a next round of NDCs. The outcome of the GST should inform the next round of NDCs, and parties will need to show how the preparation of these NDCs have been informed by the outcomes of the GST. Also, for consistency, there's an encouragement to align NDCs with LT-LEDs. And finally, the decision also states the capacity challenges of the LDCs and the SIDs when it comes to preparing NDCs. That is a very quick overview of a very large decision coming out of COP28. We also wanted to give you a brief into what took place and to set the context for our discussion today. The COP28 and the GST outcome has given us a new course in terms of urgency, in terms of what has to be done in the next 2 years. Also to bear in mind that the next NDCs needs to be country-driven, country-owned, implementable, and financeable. So now I would like to move to the panel on the country experiences. Today we have a representative from the government of St. Lucia who will be sharing their experiences and key lessons learned during their previous NDC preparation round, and also on NDC implementation in the country. The presentation will focus on how key lessons from previous NDCs will inform the new NDCs, and also to identify the key areas and priorities where capacity building can enhance the new NDCs. So without further ado, I'd like to give the floor now to Onika Ben, who will be presenting on behalf of the government of St. Lucia. Onika, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jason. Good morning, and thank you so much to the RCC Caribbean for the opportunity to share some experiences from St. Lucia as it relates to what has happened in the preparation of our previous NDC and how the lessons that we learned from this preparation will be fed into the upcoming NDC that we're doing. So, I appreciate that the time is a bit short, so I'll just be very targeted to the questions that were asked. But just to provide some context and background for those who might be listening and watching that do not know about our NDC and its development. So St. Lucia submitted its intended nationally determined contribution in 2015, and then in 2019 through the Climate Action Enhancement Package through support from the NDC Partnership, we were able to then develop our updated NDC, which was submitted in January 2021. Now, to prepare this NDC along with its financing strategy, we received support from 4 institutions through the NDC Partnership who were partners in the partnership. That's the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, the Global Green Growth Institute, Climate Analytics, and World Resources Institute. And together we crafted a very comprehensive NDC, and this was approved by Cabinet in early January 2021, and then submitted to the UNFCCC also in January 2021. So if you visit the website, you'll be able to see it. And our updated NDC has more ambitious commitments than our INDC. So we have been progressing on our commitments as it relates to climate action in St. Lucia. Our updated NDC also now includes adaptation priorities as we seek to also include some adaptation elements into our international commitments. But to specifically respond to the questions as it relates to what went well when we prepared our previous NDC in St. Lucia. So in St. Lucia, the UNFCCC focal point is the Department of Sustainable Development. And the department utilized a collaborative approach. Through the National Climate Change Committee, we utilized a multi-stakeholder, multi-sectoral approach to bring all stakeholders to the table. And we found that this worked exceedingly well to allow the various sectors. In St. Lucia, we have 10 climate priority sectors, 2 for mitigation and 8 for adaptation, the 2 for mitigation being energy and transport, and there's a long list for adaptation. I'll call them out in a minute. But these stakeholders and the lead sector agencies were able to, through the National Climate Change Committee, articulate what they wanted to see. So even though we had support from external agencies to draft the NDC, the commitment, the process was entirely driven by the country, and the commitments are owned by our stakeholders on the ground. So it's not something that someone else did. And because we utilized our national experts, we were able to balance the commitments that we had inside of the NDC with realistic targets and realistic commitments. So we continue to utilize the National Climate Change Committee to review the inputs before the final document was sent to Cabinet for their approval and then submitted to the UNFCCC. So we had transparent and open communication with all stakeholders, and we found that this worked exceedingly well to complete the process, as well as having that dedicated support from the team from Climate Analytics and all the other partners that I mentioned that really helped to draft the updated NDC along with an NDC financing strategy. And the financial assistance through the NDC partnership really helped us to pull this all together. Even though this was a process that was driven by national actors, we recognize that the financial commitment required to convene the meetings and to do the ground truthing of the work required quite a lot of resources sometimes. So as it relates now to lessons learned, and I'll try to move very quickly through this so we can get to how we will then move into our next preparation. We have found that it's very important to have a dedicated team to track implementation and to coordinate the mobilization of support for the implementation of NDC. Now, within the Department of Sustainable Development, we do have a dedicated climate change team. Whilst we do have a dedicated climate change team, one of the challenges is that this team is very small. So through the NDC partnership, the department and St. Lucia has been able to receive support through the embedding of a NDC in-country facilitator in the person of that will be myself, and I support the work of the department. So we have the technical support coming from NDC Partnership, along with the officers that are housed in the Department of Sustainable Development, along with the National Climate Change Committee, and we continue to track what's happening across sectors, whether it's through our quarterly reports that we do, we share with partners to show progress in action, or whether it's through the newsletter that we produce biannually. These things are done to show action in St. Lucia and how we are achieving our targets. So we have the institutional mechanism, we have the team. Even though we have the challenges in doing the work, we still have these systems in place. We have found that funding for the implementation of the NDC can be a bit challenging to really direct it, to execute some of the things that we have highlighted. And we recognize that as small island developing states, when you look at the history of how financing is distributed, the numbers will show a much smaller percentage that goes to SIDS. Not just the financing that comes, but also the capacity to utilize, to develop the projects, and then to execute. There's a range of things that happen, and I'll come to that in a minute. So from the previous NDC, we have learned that it's good to have the national experts working with you. We do have experts in country that are trained in greenhouse gas inventory, and St. Lucia has been fortunate to be able to have our experts trained in at least one category of the IPCC mechanism. I'm sorry, not one category, but an expert in each category of the IPCC mechanism that's used for the greenhouse gas inventory. And this training is continuous, and it's something that we recognize that we need to continue, including increasing the number of reviewers for the country so that we can look at our emission factors and all of these things that will feed into the upcoming NDC. So some of our priorities for the upcoming NDC, for St. Lucia, we recognize that our NDC, our previous NDC, our target is mitigation focused. However, adaptation remains a priority for our country, and there's currently a conversation internally to understand how we can quantify our adaptation elements and include it in the upcoming NDC, along with reviewing action from the energy and transport sectors, which are two mitigation sectors. So for adaptation, the ones that we really want to look at to also include would be water, agriculture, fisheries, health, education, resilient ecosystems, infrastructure and spatial planning, and tourism. So those are the 8 that we want to really look at to see how we can get in there. And we recognize that supporting the implementation of the NDC, we also have quite a range of policy documents, both adaptation and mitigation. And it will be quite a lot for me to go through right now, but the architecture in place to support the implementation is something that we have and something that we're working to continuously develop. So outside of including adaptation elements, quantifying and including them in the upcoming NDC, we're also looking at how we can include targets for some priority sectors that we were not able to specify. For example, the forestry sector. And this not just highlights a priority, but it also shows one of the support needs that currently have as it relates to looking at the sector and ensuring that it is at a place where we can set a target, and not just set a target, but monitor the activity post submission of the NDC and mobilize resources for implementation of the specific actions so that we can achieve the target. So those are some of the priorities that we have for our upcoming NDC. The last one, I'm sorry, that I forgot, is trying to accelerate implementation. We appreciate that this is a national process and this is a national commitment that we're making. But outside of just having a document that we're sending, we want to be able to really implement the actions that we're stating, because we recognize that this is something that will really help St. Lucians and will really increase the resilience of our people to the adverse climate impact. So just to wrap up, some of the support needs that we recognize moving forward would be capacity building as it relates to human resources, and technical resources to implement some of the actions, and then finance to implement some of the actions, just balancing the need of national development and financing for climate change is something that we really need to look at. So I'm cognizant of the time, so I'll just sort of wrap up right there, and I'm open to any questions that any members of the audience may have. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anika, for that presentation and for sharing the experience of St. Lucia. I won't even attempt to summarize what you presented. However, it is clear that there is some relationship already established between St. Lucia and some of the same partners that are presenting today. So that's a good thing. And as well, it's good to hear that how St. Lucia engaged the national experts throughout this process. So anyone, all the participants online today, if you have any questions for Anika, feel free to send them to her in the chat, and she'll be able to engage with you that way. We eventually would like to hear from every country in the Caribbean region and their NDC preparation and implementation processes and the support that is needed. So this is a very good start. Hopefully we can engage other countries in follow-up events. So without further ado, I'd like to open the session now on the support available for the next round of countries' NDCs, and to move on to the next panel. So we are approaching this from the context of the Caribbean region. So we have invited a number of partners to share on the support available to Caribbean countries in preparing the 2025 NDCs. Next slide, please, Safa. As mentioned earlier in the webinar, the GST invited organizations in a position to do so, and the Secretariat, including through its RCCs, to provide capacity building support for the preparation and communication of the next NDCs. And for the Caribbean region, there's an established ecosystem of support available, and we have some of the organizations here with us today to provide us with some important information. So our first speaker today in the panel is Julian Bakers-Gallegos from the NDC Partnership. I would like to hand the floor over now to her. Julianne?
Oh, understood. Hi, how are you, Jason? It's a pleasure to be here with you.
I'm doing well, thank you.
I wasn't sure if I could share. That's great to know.
Yes.
So are you able to see my screen?
No, not as yet. Tafa, if you could stop sharing the screen and have Julianne share hers.
Here we go.
I'm still seeing Tafa's screen.
Hello.
Yes, hi.
Hi, apologies for that. Of course, we lost power just as I was going to start.
It happens, it happens. You can share it. Yes, we can see your screen.
Perfect.
Go right ahead.
Perfect. Okay, so it is my pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Julian Baker, and I'm representing the NDC Partnership and our offering currently on the thematic call on LT-LED's NDC alignment update and enhancement. So as you've heard already from Executive Secretary Steele, NDCs and LT-LEDs constitute a powerful starting point for translating countries' climate commitments into investment actions, creating the basis and policy signals for a transition to a low-carbon economy and the achievement of the SDGs. Recognizing what we learned from the global stocktake has positioned us to be in a crucial moment for course correction and to ramp up ambition. And so the partnership has launched the thematic call specifically to support countries in these efforts, designing implementable and finance-ready NDCs. In fact, we're already supporting first movers on this. As you can see in the slide, the thematic call, which was launched at COP27 in December 2022, has already received engagement or has been contacted by 61 countries. 46 of these countries have already submitted requests that align with what their goals are for NDC updates and long-term strategies. We have also approved 13 joint work plans, and I will explain in a little bit what that means, and are working actively on 29 of these. The last circulation that we made for the thematic call was back in March. And basically, we are covering both mitigation and adaptation, while also setting countries up for effective mobilization of finance. For context,
Hi, Julian.
the partnership. Yes.
Hi, sorry to interrupt you, but yes, it's not on presenter mode and it doesn't seem to be moving along.
I'm sorry.
We're just seeing the first slide right now.
Oh, strange. Let me see if I can. Here. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it now. Perfect. Thank you.
Apologies for that. So today, the Partnership for Context unites 223 members, including more than 120 countries developed and developing, and more than 90 institutions that are standing ready to support countries as they develop these requests. The partnership's strength is without a doubt the diversity of our membership, and based on what we've seen so far, we have gotten very good response from partners for the requests that are being submitted by countries. In this slide, you can get a sense for the partners or the different members that are engaged. I'd like to especially highlight the work that UNDP has been doing supporting us as they've responded to a vast majority of the requests. But we have strong collaborations going on with multiple partners, including technical support from 2050 Pathways, so that as governments are drafting their requests or starting to work on this, they get technical support and insights to strengthen these requests. We're also working on specific collaboration with GIZ and honestly with several partners, and we expect this to ramp up even more so as more requests come through from partners or from countries. So to walk you through a little bit of what we've seen so far, we have received 16 countries, or we have engaged with 16 countries in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean. 14 countries have submitted requests, and of these, 13 have been supported already. So as mentioned, we have not only eager countries to start to do this work, but also very eager partners ready to support the work. We also anticipate countries will continue to request support through the thematic call in 2024 and 2025 as they develop their NDCs 3.0 and develop full-scale long-term strategies. I'd like to emphasize that the thematic call is an open call with no specific deadlines, and requests will continue to be received on a rolling basis until the third quarter of 2025. So there's time. Although we do encourage you to start prioritizing it sooner rather than later, as emphasized throughout these presentations, because it will ensure a more robust and substantial engagement from our partners. Onika spoke to a lot of these specific ways in which we're supporting, and it's manifesting in the work in St. Lucia, but I wanted to walk you through the process just so that you can understand what engagement with the thematic call, and it's why I've breezed through previous slides and want to really focus on this one. Countries can request support to the thematic call through our regular support mechanism or request for support mechanisms, but we've also added the opportunity of this pre-screening form, which you see in the lighter gray in the screen. So countries can submit initial expressions of interest or requests for guidance, for instance, in terms of how to develop these NDC 3.0s or the long-term strategies. This has allowed us to map out country interest very rapidly early on and also do a matchmaking with partners and technical support such as that provided by 2050 Pathways to ensure that the request aligns with what not only the country needs, but what partners will be able to respond to in a very efficient way. The support unit works with country focal points to develop the request. Often, I mean, each country has their own country engagement specialist that is responsible for the relationship, but often we have on-the-ground facilitators like Onika that can help develop these materials and guide the country governments as they're coming up with these proposals. As part of the thematic call, we collaborate with our colleagues at 2050 Pathways at UNDP, and we are constantly flagging these requests that are coming in so that by the time we are in the request for support phase, partners are already alert and we can speed it along a little bit, the support. So once full requests are completed, they are shared with all NDC partnership members through our regular communication channels. And as I mentioned, it's over 200 members at this point. And it is then that implementing and development partners respond directly and start to work together with the country. To ensure that we're doing this in a timely way and that we're tracking progress, we have developed this tool called the Joint Work Plan, which allows for a clear role division and expectations between government and the partner institutions. And then we facilitate discussions as needed and support to make sure that the work is carrying on as expected. I would also like to mention briefly another important tool that we have in the pipeline within the NDC partnership, which we are currently calling the NDC 3.0 Navigator, and we are developing in collaboration with the UNFCCC. The goal of this tool is to provide clear and accessible information for parties to deliver on their 2025 NDCs in a way that they are ambitious, fair and equitable, technically sound, and implementable. So this tool we are expecting to be ready by the end of this year, if not earlier. And what we are like what we're envisioning in terms of this tool with respect to the thematic call is that countries who might not necessarily know how they want to approach these updates and or these long-term strategies might come to the Navigator as a resource to start to streamline and basically prioritize what it is that they want to include. And then that can eventually feed into the thematic call process where we're actually mobilizing the technical support as well as the implementing assistance from different partners. I'm very aware of time, so I won't extend it further, but I'm available for questions as they come up. And I'm sure Jason will share the slides later with you where you can find further information on the thematic call, as well as the QR code that you can access to just submit your request right away. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Julian, for your intervention and for sharing the support that is being offered by the NDC Partnership, and also for collaborating with us to host this webinar today. I won't attempt to summarize the interventions, but just to reiterate to the participants that the NDC Partnership is open to supporting countries again through this new thematic call, and they can engage with you directly for that support. So participants, feel free to engage with Julian through the chat if you have any questions for her. But just know that we'll be opening the question and answers after all the presentations. So without further ado, I'd like to pass to our next presenter. That is Tracy Smith, the NDC Regional Coordinator from the 5 Cs. Tracy, the floor is yours. I believe your slides will come on the screen shortly.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jason, for the warm welcome. Esteemed participants, good day, colleagues. I am Tracy Smith, the NDC Regional Coordinator at the 5 Cs. Jason, are you ready? You have it?
Yes, go right ahead. Go right ahead. We can see your screen. Thank you. Well, we can see the slides. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's my privilege to address you today on the critical matter of the available support we have for the 2025 round of nationally determined contributions in the Caribbean. And I'm also very eager to listen to my fellow panelists and also contribute on the avenues through which we can bolster that collaborative and collective efforts really into combating climate change as well. So as we all know, the previous presentations also would have shared, the significance of NDCs in our region and how they can't be overstated. They serve on one arm as the roadmap for our climate action, and they also guide us to the regional vision that we have for a sustainable and resilient future. However, we face quite a few numerous challenges in implementing them, and the significant hurdles that we've encountered throughout our regional journey to NDCs as we head towards 2025 I have observed to be primarily due to like lack of limited financial resources or vulnerability to climate actions and climate impacts rather, and capacity constraints. But even within these challenges, I find that there lie a lot of opportunities as well within the support ecosystem that we currently have. I noticed we have access to climate finance, even though for SIDS and Caribbean countries like ourselves, it might not be to the amount that we had hoped for. There are also capacity development, capacity building initiatives, as well as technology transfers that we can tap into. And most importantly, we can tap into the regional partnerships that we have among ourselves, right? I
Hi,
find that
Tracy.
these. Yes, can you
Sorry
hear
to
me?
interrupt, but can you just, yes, we can hear you, but just can you kindly indicate when you want us to pass to the next slide?
Okay, no problem.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Mhm. Yes, you can go to the next slide. Thanks. And you could leave it there for a little bit. This was just to jog the conversation and so forth. But as I was mentioning, even though we have these challenges, right, there are lots of opportunities still that we could access, including the climate finance, the initiatives that look at technology transfer, and most importantly, as I was sharing with you, the regional partnerships that we have. And I was saying that these partnerships have helped to empower us to act and have effective NDCs. In order to have even more effective NDCs, the 5 Cs have realized that we must be able to mobilize additional finance. Importantly, too, we need to also continue strengthening national institutional capacities across the region. We also need to build even stronger partnerships with each other and regional cooperation. And I also think that there's an important point there in looking at the public-private partnerships and the crucial role that they really play at leveraging these sort of investments and creating that enabling environment to have the discussion. So the 5 Cs serves as the mandated agency for the region's climate change response into managing and adapting climate change. And we also serve as the main repository as well for our regional and national information on climate change. We can have the next slide. Thanks. So the center provides various services to member states and stakeholders, and this helps us to effectively manage and address that climate crisis and fulfill our commitments under the Paris Agreement. Our support that we have to our member states, they are various, but they include resource mobilization, capacity building initiatives, technical assistance, and expertise as well. And of course, our knowledge sharing platform that you can find on our website. And those materials there are to access, to enhance and develop or even improve the NDC that you have. So just in a summation, I'd like to highlight our products, really, our services that we have. The center provides data and climate modeling services that are essential in informing the revision of the NDC, whether it be an existing one, or you would like to also explore a new NDC with revised targets and so on. And we also assist countries in their preparation to report to UNFCCC for their obligations, right? And the NDC being one of those. In fact, all of our projects that we have within the 5 Cs are focused on looking at the NDC implementation, and that's by virtue of those investments, of those project investments, looking at the emission reductions or the reducing then of the carbon footprint at the end of the successful project completion. This lends further to the available expertise in project development and support as well that we provide to member states. The center has the capacity to serve as the executing agency for development partners and also to national governments in keeping with our mandate. As a regionally accredited and a delivery partner as well to the GCF, the Green Climate Fund, we're also able to support projects that look at within the range of $10 million US to $50 million US per project. And the center supports national governments and institutions as well, also in project formulation. And these projects, here is where we work closely with the NDA office, the nationally designated authority. We work closely with the NDA office in the respective country where we explore the current NDCs. We do a stock take on what projects they're currently doing. And then from there, we're able to provide expert technical guidance on how we can either improve or reassess the measures that we have in place at the moment. Another thing too that we look in form of project formulation as well for member states is that we are also able to prepare a full-fledged proposal for all the way from project idea, and we're able to support you all the way to the project proposal that could be submitted to the GCF board for later approval. So in helping the countries with these sort of assistance, it's also important to understand that national designated authorities, the relevant stakeholders, and also officials who may not be in the everyday process for the NDC revision or so on, but they are a key stakeholder by virtue of being related in the sector. We also provide capacity to carry out those climate change mandates and policies effectively. Though this is done, we do this through targeted training programs like workshops, knowledge sharing initiatives, whether it be an NDC workshop on how to develop the NDC, the center can work with the member state countries to help you to strengthen your technical and institutional capacities in those areas. We focus on NDC development and this climate modeling, greenhouse gas inventory preparation, and stakeholder engagement, because we serve as the umbrella for all of the countries within the Caribbean region for climate change. We're also looking at introducing future trainings as well that will be focused more on NDC and its how it entails into the enhanced transparency framework as well as other technical trainings as well that will be focused more on climate modeling software and so forth. We've had previous trainings with Coral before, where we trained a few countries, some of the agencies within those countries, on how to conduct themselves on the software as well. Can I have the next slide? Thank you. So 5Cs also provides support in other technical assistance as well in the form of consultancies and joint ventures. We've worked closely with member states to conceptualize, to plan, develop, implement, monitoring, and even evaluating projects and programs that feed into the realization of research that is needed. We also look at research and development in the renewable energy area as well, and that's considering our net zero goals that we have as well towards 2050 and beyond. Further, I'd also like to stress the importance as well of integrating adaptation measures in our NDCs. I think although they're not mandatory, most countries are choosing to include an adaptation component in their NDC to establish more of their mitigation commitments. I think this would help as well with having countries share their experiences, like Onika would have shared in her presentation, how St. Lucia has been able to work closely with other agencies and other countries also to realize their own potential as well. The center works closely with countries as well to build resilience to climate impacts through comprehensive risk assessments as well. So we also train in those areas. We also provide workshops if needed on how to mainstream the cross-sectional sectors into the NDC and also promoting nature-based solutions. Can I have the other slide? So this one shows just a little snippet of what the knowledge sharing platform looks like on the 5Cs website. This one is called the 5Cs Clearinghouse Database. So when you go on there, you can find a number of research papers, articles, whatever you may need to look at a particular sector, the platform allows you to also filter it by sector as well. But aside from having this platform, I also want to share that 5C also support in monitoring and reporting progress on implementation. We really believe that in utilizing the existing reporting frameworks that we have, we're able to ensure that we have transparency. The other point that I would like to also share with our members here that are viewing and being a part of the session today is that we are currently also working on an NDC tracker. And the tracker is we're hoping that at the end of this, it will be able to assist countries in providing research or evidence-based policy findings that could inform the way you would update your NDC, or would inform whether you need to reduce or add more measures into your NDC work. And it is hoped that at the end of like a few years, maybe within the 5-year period, or as we keep adding information into that tracker, that we are able to have a system that works for the entire region so that we could be able to monitor and properly evaluate the progress that we are making against our climate resilience journey. And not only for the respective country that they will be able to see just their data, but the entire region. And then you'll be able to see the overlay to show the whole region and their work. Can I see the next slide, please, Jason? Thank you. And then how to engage 5Cs. You can engage 5Cs, and it's very simple. You are welcome to send me an email. You can also copy Mr. Keith Nichols. He's the head for special projects at 5Cs. And we would be happy to meet with you to guide you on how we can best help you to have a very good NDC for 2025 and then beyond. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tracy, for your intervention and for sharing the support that is being offered by the 5Cs. Very, very valuable information delivered in so short of a time. I'm hoping to partner again hopefully in a future event to present to the countries more on the NDC tracker and the other initiatives that is being developed by the 5Cs. I can see that there's some activity in the chat already. So participants, please feel free to reach out to the partners through the chat prior to us opening the question and answer session later on. So without further ado, I'd like to pass the floor now to our next presenter, Annlyn McPhee, Technical Specialist in Climate Change, Bureau for Policy and Program Support, UNDP. Annlyn, the floor is yours. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Jason, and good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. Let me just prepare over here.
We can see the screen. Can you put it in presenter mode?
Perfect.
Yes, perfect. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting us to participate in this exchange. UNDP is a very active partner working in the region, supporting countries to enhance, revise, and implement their climate pledges, as you all may know. In 2019, we rolled out our flagship initiative, the Climate Promise, which has supported over 100 countries globally to date. The second phase of the promise began in 2022, and we have supported approximately 10 countries in the Caribbean region under both phases. And here you can see some of the countries that we are currently supporting to implement the NDCs. I'll be happy to share more detail on this, but in the interest of time, I'll move on to the crux of my presentation, which is what we are offering for 2025. Now, stemming from the success of the previous phases, we are launching the Climate Promise 2025. Its aim is to connect the global goals with actions on the ground to scale up ambition by supporting developing countries to align with the third generation of NDCs to the 1.5 goal to accelerate implementation and drive sustainable development. Now, similar to our past phases, the menu of services of the Climate Promise is organized around 3 pillars. However, for 2025, noting that the focus will be on countries revising the NDCs, we are placing emphasis on the ambition pillar. As you can see here, it looks at assessing NDC progress, building political will and societal ownership, assessing costs and investment opportunities, among other activities that can be carried out underneath that pillar. So this is a full package that we will be offering to countries once resources are mobilized, of course. However, we will begin immediately with support for national stock-taking exercises. And the purpose of the national stocktake is to assess national progress towards NDC targets and identify opportunities to increase ambition. By doing so, countries will be able to identify barriers and gaps, facilitate a collective reflection on NDC implementation, as well as advocate for higher ambition and strengthen inclusive approaches. Now, as I mentioned, we are still mobilizing funds to deliver this support. Therefore, we can only assist up to 20 countries at the moment, and that will be on a first-come, first-served basis. We will be responding to country requests that comes through the NDC Partnership thematic calls. And because we have a very short time frame to deliver this, that's up until September 2024, we will prioritize countries that have a strong national capacity to undertake the work. Our country offices will be reaching out to the different government counterparts to gauge interest. So if there's interest from today, I mean, obviously you can feel free to start mobilizing to support your official expression of interest through our country office. And in the essence of keeping it short, we're looking forward to working together with you to support countries to develop and deliver bold climate action for 2025 and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anlin, for your presentation and for presenting on the support being offered by UNDP under the Climate Promise Initiative. It's good to know that the country and the multi-country offices will be reaching out to countries within our region to follow up on this initiative that's being rolled out, hoping that the Caribbean will take advantage of this and get as many countries as possible partnering with you. So I'd now like to pass the floor to our next presenter, Frances Fuller, Head of Global Offices and Director of the New York office at Climate Analytics. Hi, Fran, are you with us? Great. Floor is yours, Fran.
Thanks. Morning, everybody. I'm going to keep it short, and I'm going to share my slides afterwards so that you all have those, because I note the time that we have left, and there are multiple people after me. So I guess first thing, for those of you who don't know us, Climate Analytics is a global climate science and policy institute integrated, engaged around the world in driving and supporting climate action to the 1.5 limit. We connect science and policy to empower vulnerable countries in international climate negotiations, inform national planning and analysis and support. We work across, I guess, 8 main thematic areas: climate impacts and risks, adaptation, loss and damage, decarbonization targets, and 1.5 pathways, climate finance, climate diplomacy, climate justice, and scientific research around the 1.5 limit. Specifically to Climate Analytics approach and available support for the NDC cycle coming up, along with long-term strategies. Our main objective around this area of work is to enhance long-term strategic planning and develop implementation strategies for climate resilient development and decarbonization in certain developing countries. And that is through the development of the NDCs to submit in 2025, along with development of long-term strategies informed by evidence-based analysis. We currently have 2 projects that are providing support that are providing existing support within the Caribbean, and one that is providing global support across a variety of different regions in the world. We are already supporting Antigua and Barbuda, Belize, Grenada, Jamaica, and St. Lucia through one of the projects, and that is with a focus on energy and transport targets. That being said, we are also working with a variety of other partners in the region and internationally to look at how countries can ensure that they have a holistic approach. Other ways in which we do provide support is through responses to countries' GCF readiness that they have submitted, and through the general NDC partnership request that's through the thematic call that was mentioned earlier, along with through country requests that go. We also provide support directly to countries if we are approached, and so I'll share my information at the end. And we are more than happy to have that conversation with countries directly to see where and how it can fit into an existing project, or that we work with you to find additional support. As it relates to the NDCs for 2035, I think the first thing I'll say is that we have a bit of a principled approach in climate analytics in which we always take it from a country-driven approach. One of the things that we are looking at key going into 2025 is ensuring that we, along with the country focal points, look at the GST decision, which obviously looks at how you unpack the GST decision and what that means in a national context, not only for the 2035 target, but also what that might mean for your 2030 target as you're doing that revision process. We always do everything on a very strong scientific and evidence-based, and we try to embed capacity building throughout all of our work. And I think finally is that we ensure that we hand over all our technical analysis, the methodologies, the assumptions, et cetera, so that you can then use that moving forward with any other partner, even internally within your ministries or with another partner in another piece of work. I think one of the things it's important to note that we have been seeing, and I hope that it doesn't deter anybody, is the challenges to access finance and move along implementation have obviously created a little bit of hesitancy in moving into the process of revising your NDC. But given, as the secretaries mentioned in the beginning, they hope to have countries submit by 9 months before the COP, we encourage you very much to start early. And with that, I'm just going to mention a few things that shows the breadth of the support that we are able to provide in everything from assessing risks, identifying impacts, doing scientific analysis to develop evidence-based targets, and that's through scenario development of emission scenarios, through emission energy system modeling to inform the mitigation potential, and that's based on the status you are up to date, including the progress along implementation where that has. We provide recommendations around 1.5 aligned to decarbonization pathways that also reflect socioeconomic trends, relevant policy interventions, including things and decisions that have been taken at a regional level. We also evaluate costs and try to put in the investment requirements into that analysis, and so that when you do have that NDC to move forward, you have the investment requirements up front, which is obviously very important for the COP coming up and the decision on the NCQG. And then more broadly, we obviously support the full stakeholder consultation process around that to ensure that we have input and foster ownership along with the focal points. And I think important to mention is that outside, that's the NDC process, but it is really critical as you're doing the NDC to provide support to implementation planning, financing or investment strategies along with pipeline development. So that's also something that we have the ability to do if it is of importance to countries. For LT-led support, we are also supporting work around that, including developing national or sectoral visions for what that looks like in country, then determining sectoral pathways, identifying data gaps, developing scenarios, including with technological, policy and or behavioral changes that might be required to get to where you want to be in 2050, along with obviously preparing the technical documents and supporting the focal points in preparing those technical documents, whether it's a long-term strategy or the NDC, to the national decision-making body, whether it's cabinet or otherwise, to ensure that you have all the information that is required to pass through that process. And with that, there's 3 people who you can reach out to, and I'll share that in the chat. It'll be myself, Dr. Jan Sint, who's the head of our implementation strategies team, and then also Ms. Ruana Haynes, who's the director of our Caribbean office, which is based in Trinidad and Tobago. So with that, thanks very much, Jason, and I will share slides so that everybody can have that in the end.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Fran, for sharing on the work that climate analytics is doing in the region. It's good to hear that climate analytics has good working relationships with countries in the region. We look forward to receiving your slides, and that, along with all the other presentations, will be uploaded to the webpage and shared with the participants. The chat is still open for further engagement with the partners, but now I'd like to pass the floor to our next presenter, Celeste Gonzalez, the Program Officer at the ICAT Secretariat. Celeste, the floor is yours. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Jason. Just let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it. If you can put it in presenter mode, that'll be fine.
Can you see it? Yeah. Good.
Coming up. It's still not in presenter mode as yet, but you can start.
What about now? Can you see it on presenter mode?
Not on my screen. No, I'm not. I'm still. Let me see.
Okay.
You stopped sharing.
Yeah. Just gonna share my entire screen.
Okay.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Well, good day, good morning to everyone. It's really good to be here and happy to share some of the work that ICAT has been doing in the region. I'm Celeste Gonzalez, part of the country support team. I'm located in Bonn, but I'm happily supporting not only Caribbean, but also the Latin American region. So for those who don't know much about ICAT was created as a multi-stakeholder partnership, and we support countries over the world. So we currently are supporting over 50 countries with project ongoing, some of them finalized and others starting. We also support hubs. We have 3 different hubs within the world. We have the Central America, Central Asia, and Central Africa. Central Asia hub, which is also supporting countries with a regional perspective. ICAT have different type of supporting. We support countries directly with tailored projects that are related to transparency, related to climate action. We also do it through the hubs with a more regional perspective and also peer-to-peer engagement. We also have developed tools, specific tools and guidelines that can be applied in all different aspects of climate action that are free and available online in our website. And we also support a lot of access to exchange of knowledge and community in general. Some of the partners that are here today have also engaged in some activities that ICAT has been collaborating in the region and also in the different events that happen, such as COP or side events in SBs and other type of events. In terms of areas, ICAT focused areas are 9. Of those 9 areas, we think that for the 2025 next round of NDC, 3 of them are key, and some of the projects that we are already working on are focused on NDC tracking framework, policy and measures, and impact assessment and projection of GHG emissions and removal. We understand that for us, and we also encourage most of the countries to do policy assessment. We understand that the NDC can be, for some countries, something still not tangible, and we need to move that into implementation. And for that, we need to have clear data. We need to understand how is that impacting the countries, different policies. So that's something that we always encourage supporting for the different countries. A good example from the region of a country that's already on phase 2 of a project is Cuba. We have engaged with a second phase now, working with Cuba, in where they have developed NDC tracking framework for the energy sector. They have good results in terms of improving emission projections, setting baselines. They have even discovered some underestimation and overestimation of previous NDCs, which is also helping them to make better decisions for the next round. And we are expecting so they can use the result of the project for increasing ambition if they wish, and also in terms of helping policymakers to make more informed decisions. We have also helped Cuba to calculate some mitigation potentials, also in the energy sector, and design the MRV system for them, which is currently ongoing. In terms of how countries within the region can approach ICAT or can request the support. We are still open to receiving requests from countries. For us, we are open to communication. We encourage countries to contact us directly to the website. We can have informal communications and meetings ahead of having an official expression of interest. It can come from an official national entity. We have worked with the Minister of Environment for most of the countries, but we also encourage other sectoral ministers such as environment, agriculture, to actually start thinking into the line ministers and supporting implementing NDC. The selection process can take between 2 and 3. We try to be agile and not to take long into selecting and designing the project. And then the preparation in terms of reference and so on can take 2 to 3 months. And we encourage countries to keep short projects and to obtain results within 12 to 18 months. And then we can deeper engage that and move to a different phase. And that is in brief. We're also continuing working. Right now we are engaged with 6 countries in the Caribbean region, but we're open to working with more countries and also happy to support peer-to-peer exchange and having short collaborations with the other initiatives that are ongoing. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Celeste, for your intervention and for sharing and the support being offered by the ICAT Secretariat. Very valuable information. I'd like to move quickly to our next presenter. I'm mindful of the time, but please note that the webinar is being recorded and the recording will be made available to all on the UNFCCC websites. So without further ado, I'd like to pass the floor to our next presenter, Cheryl Jeffers, Interim Director at the CCMRV Hub. Hi, Cheryl. The floor is yours.
Jason. Good afternoon, good evening, colleagues, wherever you may be. On behalf of the management and staff of the MRV Hub, it is my pleasure to deliver some brief remarks and express our sincere gratitude to shed some light on the work that the Hub has already engaged in and the support that it continues to provide to the Caribbean region. Just to indicate that the Caribbean Cooperative MRV Hub would have begun through a 5-year grant that was funded from the German government's International Climate Initiative, which we call ICI, and it was ultimately developed to enable Caribbean countries to cooperate on technical challenges underlying the climate change challenges. This primarily includes generating strong policy-relevant technical outputs, such as the development of greenhouse gas inventories, engaging in mitigation modeling and assessments, and any other MRV activities that supports the implementation of the Paris Agreement, particularly as we speak about the next round of NDCs. It is important to note and highlight here that the Hub will primarily be focusing on building capacities and training in the design and the improvement of our national reporting outcomes. Specifically, as it relates to the next round of NDCs that is due in 2025, we recognize that it requires new and ambitious NDCs. And to do that, a significant improvement in the data collection processes for our Caribbean region is quite pivotal. And this is one area where the Hub has and continues to provide support. It can be done through various CBIT programs and projects, as well as the continuum of capacity building activities that are typically embedded within the national work streams. To provide some context in terms of some of the work that would have been done and continues, as part of the 5-year grant project, we would have engaged in building and developing capacity building reports across the 12 English-speaking Caribbean countries. And the contents of these reports would have provided a good status quo of where the countries are in terms of addressing climate change responses. And the Hub is ready and willing to re-engage with the Caribbean to update these particular reports and to see exactly where the challenges are and to see how we can build onto those particular activities. Additionally, one of the key outputs of that particular project that we continue to engage in the development of guidance documents that are tailored to support mitigation activities, including data collection that will also inform our NDC processes. I'm quite cognizant of the time, as Jason would have indicated, and I will include some information into the chat in terms of how we can be reached, just to say that the Hub as it is right now is remote based. It will be registered in Grenada next to our friends Jason and Myra. So yes, we'll be happily engaging with you in terms of continued collaborations. And just to say that specific to the guidance documents, They'll be fit for purpose because they will be tailored to each one of the country's specific national circumstances. And we do recognize that improving the data collection processes is one of the key areas that would be critically important to inform the NDC processes. In terms of additional support that we can provide, it can be done directly with countries engaging one-on-one with the MRV Hub staff. And we believe that this will put us in a good position to ensure that the information is done in incremental steps. But outside of that, one of the key activities that we'll be engaging in is the support in the regional activities, because we do know that the Caribbean situations, whilst we may be different in some activities, we are quite similar in our challenges. And we do facilitate and support sharing of best practices in the performance and preparations of our annual meetings that allow countries similar to what Onika would have done here today to share on the best practices that would have been done with the respective countries and to share that information to our friends and colleagues across the Caribbean region. So in the interest of time, I will stop here, but just to indicate that I will put my information and contact information within the chat, and I will share some slides with you, Jason, after that can be shared with the partners here as well as the Caribbean territories. So I will stop here for now and just to say thanks again for the opportunity to present briefly and the work that the Hub has begun and will continue to be doing as the time progresses to improve the processes as well as ensuring that the Caribbean leads at the forefront of implementing the Paris Agreement. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cheryl. Just to note, Tafa, can you please ensure that all our presenters are able to share their screen? So thank you, Cheryl, for your intervention and for sharing the support that is being offered by the CCMRV Hub. And I look forward to seeing you in person soon. Participants are invited to engage with Cheryl through the chat for more information on the support being offered. I would now like to pass the floor to our next presenter, Ketsiwe Kumalo, the advisor on the climate transparency. I'm working under the CBIT GSP program for UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center. Ketsiwe, the floor is yours. I'm hoping you can share your screen now.
Thank you, Jason. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can hear you now. Great.
Okay, thank you. I will share my screen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Are you all able to see my screen?
Yes, yes, we can see it. Yes,
thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you very much, Jason. As already introduced, I'm Ketsiwe Kumalo. I'm working with the UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center. And here I just want to share, I think overall in terms of what UNEP can offer, besides just the CBGSP, which is one of the work that actually UNEP is implementing through the UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center. I think UNEP is one of the partners in the region. As you already know, we are working with a lot of different countries. And here we just want to show how UNEP can actually leverage the current portfolio to support countries in the region. From my side, I'm not able to see if my slides are moving or not. I don't know why.
It's still on the first slide on our end, Ketsiwe.
I don't know what.
Try stop sharing and probably share again and see if that solves the issue.
Okay.
We're not seeing the screen at this time.
Are you able to see now?
Yes, I can see the screen now. Can I try advancing the slides?
Yeah, I'm trying to advance it from my side. It's moving from your side?
No, it's not moving.
Anyway, yeah, I can share the slides later, but I
Yes,
can
thank
just
you.
speak through in the interest of time. I think UNEP has, I think I want to highlight 4 main areas that UNEP is working on in relation to NDC. I think one important area is in reporting and transparency, which I think is one of the main, the most important area I want to highlight here. As we know that transparency and NDCs are very interlinked, and it's very important to support countries in transparency, because if we have robust transparency systems, then we are able to come up with science-based policies when it comes to NDC, and this then creates the space for countries to be more ambitious in their NDC. So this is one area that UNEP is working on. And then the other area, already we are supporting countries in implementing their NDCs, and we do this through different support. And we know that also UNEP has a huge portfolio on the technology needs assessments and national adaptation plan. And in many countries, we have supported countries to ensure that the work they are doing in TNAs and the NAPs are able to feed into the work that they are working on in improving and also updating their NDCs. So this is very important. And the other area is through sectoral engagement, where we zoom into the different sectors through some kind of models and supports that we have as an organization to support countries, especially in the area of energy efficiency, transport, and in the cooling sector. UNEP also has a huge area of contribution when it comes to NDCs. I think one of the key areas that, based on the current portfolio, that we can leverage support for improving NDCs, as I've already mentioned, is through robust baseline and analytical tools, which we basically support countries through the transparency work that we work with. And also in the different sectors, we are working with different countries in improving feasibility of many of the sectoral policies that countries are able to come up with. And here we also work in terms of how countries can link, especially their greenhouse gas inventories, and also projection in terms of the mitigation actions that they will want to identify for their NDC. And we also support countries in setting up ambition and national international goals through our science and policy-based reports that we produce here, the GAP report and the mitigation GAP report, which are basically key important policy documents that have also contributed, if we have seen in the global stocktake, as you have highlighted in terms of the gaps. And using this kind of information that we are generating is something that is very important as we work together with the countries to ensure that they make their NDCs very ambitious. Through the CBIT GSP support program that is funded by the JEF, I think this is one area where UNEP is able to, in this process, support countries in their revision of their NDC. This is one of our flagship program that we are working with countries. We have 10 networks that are spread across the globe. And in the region, we have the Spanish-speaking Latin American Caribbean network, and we also have the Anglophone Caribbean network. And we have network coordinators that are placed in the regions that are offering support. And through this, we actually provide support mainly through regional trainings or capacity building, but also what makes us unique also with other different support is that we provide targeted support directly to the countries in key thematic areas of the enhanced transparency framework. And through our experience, we have understood that working with these countries and ensuring that they have robust transparency systems, this is one area that helps them to actually inform their NDCs. And we have been working in the region with different countries, and now we have identified also different countries that we want to that have requested support from us, that we are offering support to ensure that as they update their NDCs, their GSG inventories are robust, and we are supporting them to fill in the data in the different sectors as they will have highlighted this. And we are also offering support in terms of training on the mitigation modeling tools such as LEAP and GASMO. And we have a training that is planned currently for Suriname, which is one country that has come forward to request support in this area. And we have extended this support to many different countries in the region that would like us to help them or support them in these different modeling tools. And also one important area that we have seen very beneficial into different countries is our mutual learning program, which provides peer-to-peer learning or support for countries. We have been doing this and helping countries to how they can track progress. And I think in the beginning of this webinar, we have talked a lot about making NDC technically sound, implementable, and financeable. And I can just throw in one important element here, that they have to be also trackable, which is why support in the transparency space becomes also very important in informing ambitious NDCs when it comes to helping countries to update their NDC. So we have quite a large portfolio across the different regions that I will not want to go through in the interest of time. And just to mention that through the different support programs that we are having on TNAs, we have also seen many countries in their updating of their NDCs, but also in the initial NDCs, countries using the prioritized technologies to inform their NDCs. And it is our main also objective with our global TNA projects to support countries as they prioritize and identify projects or technologies that are going to be useful for their countries, to take them a step further to see how this can be prioritized and make sure that whatever technology needs they are putting forward is something that can be financeable and can be prioritized for NDC implementation. And I will end it there, Jason, with the interest of time, and hope that when I share my presentation, the countries will be able to see the different types of support and a menu of support that we can offer to them, and also how they can use the existing portfolio support that they have from UNEP to actually leverage it to improve their next NDCs. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, Katsui, for sharing on the support being offered by UNEP CCC under the CBIT GSP program. And again, the slides and all the presentations will be uploaded to the website and shared with the participants. I think that it's clear that transparency and NDC is closely linked, and we look forward to working with you in the future. I'm mindful of the time, and we thank the participants for staying logged on. We have only 3 more speakers, and we'd like to give them the opportunity to share also on their agency support. So with that being said, I'd like to pass the floor now to our next presenter, Danielle Munoz-Smith, the Global Green Growth Institute Caribbean representative based in St. Lucia. Danielle, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jason. I hope everybody can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Great. Okay, so we'll zip right through. As you said, we've run a little long, but happy to be here outlining a little bit about GGGI, the Global Green Growth Institute. For those of us that don't know us, we're an international intergovernmental organization, essentially mandated to support developing countries transition to green, low carbon economies and inclusive sustainable development. We were founded in 2012. We currently have 48 members as part of the GGGI, with operations in 40 countries, operations meaning full country programs that are embedded within country governments. So we work alongside NDAs, strategic ministries to help achieve green growth objectives. Here in the Caribbean, we've been operating since 2018. We have 3 country programs, one in the Dominican Republic, one in Guyana, and here I sit in St. Lucia within the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, which allows us to work and support members in across the Eastern Caribbean. Just a range of our different projects that we're currently delivering across in the Caribbean. I think what's probably important in terms of the services that we provide with respects to NDA, and well, I can just actually cut to that right now. So what GGI has ample experience globally providing support for NDC implementation. This is just a snapshot of the 140 projects that we've been delivering. The support that we provide ranges, it's encompassing, and it's, you know, speaks to all of the other presenters and the various support they're providing, from NDC enhancement, NDC roadmap and investment planning, LDC or LEDs, low emissions development strategy design and development, MRV system design and implementation, reporting to UNFCCC support as well. In the Caribbean, to date, we've specific projects that or countries that we've been providing are in St. Lucia, in Grenada, Antigua and Barbuda, and Guyana. And again, from NDC planning, finance, investment planning to MRV strengthening, to engagements in terms of MRV frameworks, etc. I think I guess in terms of the offer that GGI provides, this technical support, we see this strategically as providing initial NDC support to building a larger, more permanent or ongoing partnership with governments. So this is an entry point to support on the planning, but also to then develop a country program that takes that next step, right? To when we have an investment plan, to actually work with governments to help mobilize finance and investments for these priority projects. And that takes not a quick process. It takes time. So GGI's offer is to through initial NDC support to build out larger country programs that continue to provide government and NDAs with support. We work through a number in terms of how we provide support. We leverage different resources, so NDCP through their PAF, GCF readiness, and of course our own bilateral donors to deliver this type of work. The other, I think, what's important that I wanted to share is, you know, again, coming back to our support in SIDS specifically for NDC development. I'm coming from the Pacific, where I was for the last 3.5 years, and in addition to some of the NDC enhancement, investment road plan, etc. that we did in the Pacific, I wanted to bring attention to the regional Pacific NDC hub that GGI, along with GIZ, which is on the call, and regional implementation partners in the Pacific set up, I guess now 6 years ago, as that hub where countries could submit requests, and between development partners coordinate the response to those requests. So I was really happy to see the CC MRV hub. I'd love to learn more about that, because I think there's opportunity with all of these development partners here, how we could better coordinate and create a hub that facilitates coordination and ultimately supports governments and stakeholders in the region, because there's a lot to do and there are a lot of offerings. So, but yeah, I'll leave it there. The slides will be shared. My contact information is here. So looking forward to any comments, questions, or emails to discuss further. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Danielle, for your intervention and for sharing on the support being offered by GGGI. So looking forward to hearing that GGIs will be supporting more countries in the Caribbean region in the near future. And it's important what you mentioned as well. So it's not only an opportunity for countries to make connection with the partners, but for partners to make connections between themselves as well. So very good opportunity that we have here today. Participants are encouraged to engage with Danielle. So I would like to pass the floor now to our next presenter, Billy Holness, STC on the Capacity Building Initiative for Transparency at the Global Environment Facility. Hi, Billy, the floor is yours. I think Billy has an issue accessing his camera and his microphone. Tafa, can you assist, please? We'll be right with you, Billy. You should be able to access your camera and your microphone. And again, thank you to all for staying on the call. After Billy, we have one more presenter.
Hello.
Thank you. Yes, we can see you.
Now we can
Great.
see me and you
Yes.
can hear me as well.
Yes, yes. Happy to have
Thank
you
you.
here.
Thank you,
Go right
Jason.
ahead.
I'm happy to be here as well. I'm gonna start sharing my screen now. Could you confirm that you are seeing it in full screen?
We can see it, but it's not in presenter mode as yet.
What about now?
No change. It's still not in presenter mode. Right. Maybe you can stop sharing and try sharing again and see if that works.
Yeah, let me try and do that. I'm trying to do it this way then.
Yes,
What about
we
now?
can see it now. Perfect.
Perfect. Well,
Yes,
good morning,
go right ahead.
good afternoon, everyone. My name is William Holness or Billy Holness. I'm in charge of the CBIT Capacity Building Initiative for Transparency portfolio revision at the Global Environment Facility, as was already mentioned by some of our previous colleagues, particularly by Kitsue from the UNEP CCC, who is our counterpart in terms of the CBIT Global Support Program. In this very short intervention, I will try to be as brief as possible for time purposes. We're going to present to you how the GEF is supporting the Enhanced Transparency Framework as it relates to the work on nationally determined contributions. There are three ways in which the GEF itself is supporting the work on NDCs. Starting with NDC preparation, we have the STAR allocation, which stands for System for Transparent Allocation of Resources at the GEF for NDC preparation itself. This is per our programming directions of GEF 8, which is the current replenishment of GEF resources available for countries to access. And the thing with STAR allocation is that it is assigned at the beginning of the GEF cycle, in this case GEF 8, and countries could determine where to allocate their resources per programmatic areas, in this case considering climate change being one of it. And next avenue in which countries could access the GEF for support on implementing or the NDCs is particularly using the STAR allocation for NDC implementation. This is translated into climate mitigation and adaptation, and even means of implementation actions within the GEF portfolio in the respective countries. And a last one that we are currently working on very actively at the GEF is the CBIT, Capacity Building Initiative for Transparency, to monitor the progress or the tracking of the progress of the NDCs in order to improve the transparency over time. With these three avenues, we are providing synergistic support for both Article 4 and Article 13 of the Paris Agreement. In terms of, to provide a little bit of history of the GEF support to NDCs, following COP19, the GEF provided support to the preparation of intended nationally determined contributions that were the acronym for it was INDCs to 46 countries in the world. With that, the Global Support Program for National Communication and also biennial transparency reports also included elements on INDCs formulation via tools and capacity building back then as well. In particular, in the Caribbean region, the INDC support program encompassed support for Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, and Trinidad and Tobago. As you can see on the map here, we can see how countries were addressing the INDC support provided by the GEF, be it standalone projects combined with national communications and BURs under a UNDP umbrella program or under a UNEP umbrella program. Nevertheless, that happened back when INDCs were in the process of being formulated. But for the formulation of NDCs, of the first NDCs and second NDCs, the GEF did not receive requests for support so actively. And we understand, we assume that it is most likely due to the existence of multiple support providers, as we have already been witnessing with this presentation of different support providers for countries in around the world, and the prioritization of STAR resources for NDC implementation project took a little bit more of a center stage using GEF resources for these purposes. Then the main reason why we're here presenting then is the capacity building initiative for transparency for the Caribbean region, and we will provide an overview of how we are addressing countries in the region to this extent. We have, as of March 15, 2024, 8 national CBIT-1 projects in 8 Caribbean countries. These are all national CBIT projects. The total project financing for CBIT in the Caribbean is $9.2 million US. There are still 8 countries in the Caribbean that are yet to submit a CBIT project. This is something important to mention. The CBIT are used as set-aside resources from the GEF. That means that countries won't be using part of their STAR allocation, as mentioned before, for other purposes on NDC implementation or formulation. Therefore, there is plenty of funding available at GEF 8 for countries to access it, countries who hasn't accessed it so far. There is also countries that are in the process of finalizing their CBIT projects 1, and there's also a possibility under GEF 8, so currently, to access a CBIT 2 project. So this is also a possibility to keep working on the activities that have been started with the CBIT 1 projects and continuing it with CBIT 2 projects. So we encourage both countries that haven't accessed CBIT projects of some funding so far, and also those that are yet to finish their first CBIT projects to access CBIT 2 funding. There are 4 active GEF agencies in the region working on CBIT projects. These are UNEP, UNDP, FAO, and IDB. Now we consider that the portfolio in this particular region is active and mature, considering that 87.5% of the CBIT portfolio in the region is currently under implementation, not under formulation. And in addition, as our colleagues from UNFCCC mentioned earlier, the CBIT Global Support Program has a region-exclusive network for the Anglophone Caribbean. And in addition to that, countries like Cuba or the Dominican Republic are also part of the CBIT Latin American and Caribbean Spanish-speaking network, and Haiti is also part of the Francophone cluster. With this, we're covering all the countries in the Caribbean region to have access to the CBIT Global Support Program, even those countries that have not that do not have an active CBIT project as we speak. Just to provide an overview, and with this I will be finalizing my presentation, the thematic focus of CBIT projects on NDC tracking in the Caribbean region. Just to make you to give you a few examples, 63% of CBIT projects in the Caribbean region, compared to 59 of them are the global level, have activities on NDC enhancement and policy design. Also considering that CBIT is country driven based on priorities, and sometimes they prioritize areas such as institutional arrangement for MRV or greenhouse gas emission inventories. So the particular focus, at least for the Caribbean region, is 63% of them focusing on NDC enhancement and policy design, which is relevant for this intervention. In addition, well, more specifically, what do we entail, or what do we mean by NDC enhancement and policy design? Is basically the support on institutional arrangements for NDC formulation and implementation, as well as technological tools to track such progress, and capacity building to incorporate the climate analysis into national planning and to the next, this means to the next stage, to the next set of NDCs 3.0. I'm also leaving here below, for the purposes of time, examples of two projects that are currently under implementation. Those are of Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, just as examples. There are also on other 6 projects with active countries with active CBIT projects in the region, and I will be more than happy to be sharing also information on them. But for the purposes of time, I will be finishing here, and I thank you all for your attention, and I will look forward for any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Billy, for your intervention and for sharing and the support being offered by the Jeff. It's good to see that the amount of work that Jeff is doing in the region, and the amount of countries that are already being engaged. Most countries are somewhat familiar with the Jeff, and it's good to know that there are still opportunities for countries to receive support under the various initiatives. So I would like to pass the floor now to our next presenter. Last but certainly not least, I would like to call to the floor Michelle Peña-Nels, Task Team Lead for the GIZ. Michelle, the floor is yours. Go right ahead.
Thank you so much. I'll keep it short, I promise. Okay, I'll share my presentation. Wonderful. So I have the pleasure today to represent the GIZ, but more specifically the ICI support project for the implementation of the Paris Agreement, or short SPA. So please, I'm not here, I'm not able to represent the whole GIZ, but from the work that we've been doing in the region and also on a global level, we understood that countries with low GHG emissions are struggling to increase their ambition in a meaningful and realistic way. So support is needed to identify enhancement opportunities while keeping costing and implementation consideration in mind. So other aspects of the NDC update process was very much clear also through the work that we've been doing over the past years. It's about feasibility. More work is still required to translate commitments into action, particularly in mobilizing finance for NDC implementation. So the 2025 NDC should provide an overview of the main areas of support needed and existing gaps on finance, technology transfer, and capacity building. So the time frame is tight, and especially looking at the different processes that are needed in order to enhance the NDCs, looking at multi-stakeholder processes, validations from all relevant sectors, and the ownership that is needed. Obviously, the support delivery system has to stand ready. In terms of, I don't know if my slide has actually moved.
No, it's not moving.
No,
yes, it moved. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes,
success.
It's moving. Yeah.
So to give a brief overview, GIZ has, as many of you know, active operations in over 100 countries with direct country presence, especially like also in the Caribbean region. And it collaborates directly with governmental counterparts, making the support flexible and versatile to address country needs. That translates, for instance, in the climate sphere to dedicated support to partner countries on NDC enhancement and implementation. On bilateral level, dedicated NDC projects support, for instance, like we've heard the International Climate Initiative from the German government already, priority countries in the 2025 NDC process, but multiple GIZ projects are either active or in the pipeline to support NDC update, investment planning, or implementation planning. So without
Hi, you're muted. Okay.
Okay, I'm unmuted again. Okay, perfect.
I can hear you now. You're there.
Okay, great. Great. That would be good. So I'm here to actually present one of these projects, and that's the project that I'm working in. So it's the support project for the implementation of the Paris Agreement, which really looks at the entire Paris Agreement mechanisms with the objective to effectively reduce greenhouse gas emissions, to enhance NDC ambition, to monitor and communicate these transparency. We have also, like, part of our project is also the PATBA Secretariat, so it was very nice to see that also from the Jeff, the collaboration is there. In terms of what we've done so far, we have been able to support countries in the previous update cycle, specifically through the NDC Partnership's Climate Action Enhancement Package. So SPA specifically supported 6 countries to develop and revise mitigation adaptation targets, develop MRV system, implementation strategies, and impact assessments, including cost-benefit analysis. That also was translated into technical support and capacity building, but also, like, you know, working into different sectors like energy, agriculture, IPPU, RUC, and many others. So based on this experience, we are ready also to go into the next round. The German Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action has provided, through the International Climate Initiative, additional resources to support the NDC Partnership thematic call requests coming in. Basically, SPA is now unable to provide country-driven support in terms of, like, technical assistance for NDC enhancement and LTLET's development, the alignment of those documents, but also capacity building on climate action, as well as finance readiness. So this is just a short excerpt of what we can offer, but this is really based on conversations, and we are ready to support more partner countries. In terms of, like, other products that we've been you know, creating over the past years that are heavily, like, built on country work. So we developed guidance notes and studies in order to identify and disseminate concepts, tools, and good practices for NDC update and enhancement. I would like to highlight 2 of those. One is a study which was really looking at the last cycle of NDCs, looking into how support was delivered to countries in terms of lessons learned and what needs to be improved for the next cycle. And also, together with climate analytics, the PATBA was able to create the NDC handover checklist, which is a great tool in order to have sustainable information management for the next round. But you can see here there are many others that could be useful. And I invite you all to actually look at our pages, our websites, and then, without further ado, short QR code, how to contact us, but also just through SPA at giz.de. We're happy to provide information, but also the colleagues from the NDC Partnership are there. So since this is a tool that is going to address, like, requests coming in from the thematic call, we're happy to respond on both sides. So thank you for your attention. Again, my name, and if you have specific questions to me, please don't hesitate to reach out, and thank you so much.
Hi, all. Apologies. We had, I think we have a little technical issue. Just bear with us for a second, please. Hi, everyone. I think we lost Jason, probably due to oscillations on internet, which is pretty common around here. While we wait for Jason, just would like to invite anyone who would like to ask questions to the presenters or include your questions in the chat. We aim to have a picture taken of everyone, and I wish that we had Jason with us on that one, so just bear with the time a little bit. But please, if you have any questions or address to the presenters, please, this could be the time for you to jump in. Thank you.
Hi, Mara. Can we just unmute and ask questions, or do you want us to put in the chat?
You can unmute yourself. If you don't have access, you can just put in the chat, and it's the same.
Okay, great. I'll unmute. This is Stacy from Island Innovation. So very nice to
Hi,
see
can
you
you
all.
hear me?
Great. Yes, we can hear you, Jason. We missed you.
Oh, sorry, I
Yes.
dropped off. Issues with the internet. Apologies. Are we taking the group photo now?
We're just starting the questions while waiting for you because you have to be in the picture. But we can take the
Oh.
picture really quick, and then
Yes,
Stacy,
yes,
we get
please.
back to you if it's
Yes,
okay.
please. Apologies.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, great. So if everyone can open their camera so we can take a group photo. Yeah, I lost my background, but I don't think it matters. It's fine. Thank you, everyone.
Is this only for panelists or the pictures for all?
Everyone. We want
Oh,
everyone
okay.
to open their cameras. Yes, please. Hi, everyone. Seeing some very familiar faces. Hi, Stacy. Hi, Aliyah. Sherwin. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Yes. Hi, Jennifer. Andrea. I can't say everyone's name. Hi, everyone. Thank you all. Hi. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Is Tafa taking the picture?
I'm taking a picture.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Okay.
Oh, great. Teamwork. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank
So
you, everyone.
Oh, wow. Now I see everyone. I didn't
Yeah.
see before. I see a lot of people now.
Okay, can I take it
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
Yeah. We still have the cameras on.
Okay, I'm taking
Very
now.
good.
Smile. 3, 2, 1, cheese. Once more, please. 3, 2, 1, cheese. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for staying on the extended time. Thank you again to the panelists for their presentations, and we'll just open the floor for questions and answers. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your virtual hand or type it in the chat. But I would encourage the presenters, those who have not done so as yet, to enter their contact details in the chat so persons can reach out directly to you. I see a hand raised from Stacy. Stacy, please take the floor.
Hi there. Thanks so much. I thought were incredible presentations, and thanks for putting together the webinar, Jason and Myra and company. It was really enjoyable, and I think it really does show what is involved in the concept of NDCs. And I was wondering, is there any way that, even collectively, just with their hair, if we commit ourselves to how can we engage the general public if possible some more? Because some of the some of what's happening and some of the ways that we see we can make a difference do seem, I think, above and beyond what the general person might be able to do. Is there a way we can have, you know, the average person, as it were, feel more empowered to make a difference in this respect? I know that's a difficult question. We might not find the answer, but we might just have some thoughts in that regard.
Thank you very much, Stacey, for that question. So I'll open the floor to any other panelists if they would like to respond to Stacey. Feel free to unmute yourselves or raise your hand. Yes, Fran, I see your hand raised. Go right ahead. For other panelists that would like to contribute, kindly raise your virtual hand as well. Thank you. Go right ahead, Fran.
Maybe I'll just quickly give an example of a previous experience through the 2020 NDC process. And Stacey, thanks for the question. I think that that's a critical piece in ensuring that governments have sustained interest in implementing their NDC, one cycle after cycle, but also administration after administration. And in the past, we have been asked to include public awareness material, whether that's talking points for technical leads, ministry focal points, ways in which to engage the media, as well as briefing material, pamphlets, etc., that have been used in that regard. We've also included particular stages in the public consultation process, ways in which to engage stakeholders that are more broad than your traditional sector-specific stakeholders within the different ministries. And so that can be very important, maybe a public launch. Those are types of things that governments can include in a country request to help that process. But ultimately, as partners who provide technical assistance, we can't necessarily dictate that, but we can provide avenues to enhance it.
Thank you, Fran, for that response. Any other partner would like to share? Yes, Billy, go right ahead.
Thank you again for your question. I think it's very relevant as how to include all non-state actors in the consultations and decision, potentially in the decision making on the NDCs, and inform them accordingly. Based on our experience from working on CBIT projects, this engagement could be a little bit even more formal by the provision of consultation spaces, and even in some cases, and it will just be country driven, of course, if there's political buy-in to do so, having memorandums of understanding from key civil society sectors that should be engaged with the NDC formulation process, or in order for them to provide active feedback. This will be done probably with several key organizations in each of the countries, and the particular relevant sectors for each of them, for which it will be for which it will actually benefit the country overall, in increase of ambition, and also considering having consideration, on in terms of minorities, women, youth, etc. It's also good to have all these stakeholders on the tables, and this could be done a little bit more formally by engaging them through memorandums of understanding or similar documents. This is on our experience, and it's also, of course, driven by the countries depending on the context.
Thank you very much, Billy, for your response. So the floor is still open if we have other questions, or if any other panelists would like to respond to the earlier question posed by Stacey. Feel free to do so as well. I'm mindful again of the time. It's after 1 p.m. in the Caribbean, the Eastern Caribbean. So and thank you all again for staying on for so long and participating in this webinar. Thank you to our panelists for all the excellent information that was shared today with the participants, and for providing your contact details. As stated earlier, all the presentations will be uploaded to the website, the recording as well. This will be shared with the participants and anyone who would have missed the webinar today. Thank you for engaging with us. I'll ask and last round for questions. If there are any questions, I don't see any hands raised. Let me check the chat. No, I don't see any questions in the chat, but thank you again. So moving on now to the closing remarks. It's my pleasure to welcome back Mayra Santayea, our regional lead for the Caribbean, to provide us with the closing remarks. The floor is yours, Mayra.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, in the interest of time, I'm going to be very, very brief. I'd just like to thank the partners presenting today, the team in the RC Caribbean, also the UNFCCC Coordination Unit in Bonn, the NDC Partnership for the wonderful preparation for this webinar, as well appreciating the presence of country representatives and the St. Lucia for sharing the experiences with the NDC. So just one word is that words without action is not enough. So the region will need a strong political and technical support, as we know, and cooperation to deliver. But we encourage all countries in the Caribbean region to engage with the development partners and to reach out for the relevant support that will allow you to prepare and submit the NDCs that are country-owned, implementable, and in line with the national priorities and the sustainable development goals. Thank you very much for your presence today, and looking forward for further interactions to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayra. So this webinar is just one in a series of many capacity building initiatives that we'll be rolling out from the RCC Caribbean. Thank you to everyone on the call for staying on with us for this full length of the webinar and more. And we look forward to engaging with you again, hopefully soon in the near future. So thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you all.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.